Hello, Qckslvrslash here, and today we have a video from 8-inch 55 cal Mark 16 sailing the Tier 10 American battleship, the Montana. Now, this is pre .66, and the minor changes that these American battleships got with the lowering of the citadels. But I've always enjoyed the Montana, and it's been a while since I've featured a game in her, just because personally I haven't played her a lot, and I don't think many people out there play her very often. I've seen recently on Reddit a couple people asking, like, is it even worth going up the American tree? You know, like I've gone up the Germans, is the Montana worth it? And to me it is. Mostly because the North Carolina and Iowa are two of the funnest ships to sail. I really enjoyed grinding through them, but to me it wasn't a grind. And the Montana, when you get targets like cruisers, other battleships, even destroyers, the guns just perform so well. You can seem to hit what you're aiming at and just nuke things out of existence. Much in the way any Tier 10 battleship does, I just find the extra guns, the accuracy the Montana brings to the mix really makes her an enjoyable ship to sail. And then you've got some good AA and secondaries in case you come across any CDVs. Now, the Montana may be a Tier 10 I really like. Trap is a map I really hate. I've found it to be a very frustrating map to try to play because it doesn't seem to matter what teams do as far as strategy, whether or not you win or lose. I've seen some horrible strategies work out, so are they horrible? And I've seen some well thought out strategies completely fail. And pretty obviously from this one, it looks like 8-inch's team is going AB. Okay. Well, for ships to go B, someone's got to go join that Qckslvrslash. It more looks like everyone is going A. The enemy team's already got 2 of the caps. And normally, this would be a mixture for an absolutely horrible game. Because all these battleships pushing south to A from the enemy team, they don't have to push anymore. They've got the caps. The team, they just got to hold there, wait for the team to join them from the north, and they've got all of 8-inch's team cornered. But when you have a lemming train like this, as long as someone's willing to take the lead and charge, it can go really well. And one thing you'll notice, 8-inch is very active in chat. And that can be a mixed blessing. He fires his first 2 guns as they clear the side of the shore, holding off on the rear 2 turrets, waiting for them to clear the mountain, and gets a good hunk of damage into that Bismarck. Now what you'd really like to have seen there is that Fletcher to have provided smoke to the fleet rather than himself. Because so much of the fleet is right here, covering this all up, all the cruisers, is vital, whereas the Fletcher got too close, got himself in trouble, pop smoke for himself. Which, I guess he's still alive, but it leaves this whole group here at A kind of stuck. Because now they're like, oh, you can see it. People turning around. They don't want to push forward. And 8-inch can't push alone. That's always one of the kind of like catch-22s of sailing a battleship, is everyone wants you to push, but for you to push, you need them to join you. But they don't join you unless you're pushing, and it just creates this horrible loop of everyone yelling at everyone. If people just played their ship's roles a tiny bit better naturally, I think it would go really well. But with the enemy Fletcher having been sunk, and enough time having passed, I think 8-inch is like, screw it, I'm just gonna go. I think he gets tired of the team all balling up south of A as the enemies walk away with the score. You know, they're over 100 points ahead, and they're down a ship, which just kind of shows you how quickly caps can add up. And 8-inch isn't having it. He's sailing out from behind the cover, and he's going to go fight the enemy team. And making moves like this can often embolden your teammates, and when it does, things go well. Now, the downside is he does have to be very careful here. He's got a lot of different battleships on multiple sides, so really, I'd say the best place to point your bow would be between the Qckslvrslash Montana and that Orleans, because it protects you from the Bismarck and keeps you well angled against this Qckslvrslash and Montana. And bow in, well, I wouldn't say the Montana is as good, I find, as something like the North Carolina. It's a very tough nut to crack. And the reason I kind of reference the North Carolina is I found in this tree the North Carol just bow in is an absolute tank, and it's something you lose a bit with the Montana and Iowa. They're still strong, they're just not as strong comparatively tier for tier. But that Qckslvrslash is insisting on sitting side on, and he's getting some damage in, but 8-inch's ship is weathering the storm. He's getting in close, secondary's going mad off both sides of the ship, and you can see 8-inch trying to decide, who do I attack here? He's taking damage, he has a Qckslvrslash pretty much side on, but his teammates are shooting at it. Meanwhile, he is going to carousel this Montana, and because of that, he puts all his guns to starboard, puts a lot of trust in his team, but it pays off, and he manages to get 5 citadels in a single volley out of his main guns, and just wipes Montana off the map. Now, a couple more seconds the other way, the Qckslvrslash probably would have had that fate lined up for 8-inch, but because the team is moving up with him, well, some are, and a lot of those ships back there had lines on the Qckslvrslash, he got wiped out. So next up is the New Orleans, and that shot could have gone better. And I like the choice here. Go with the Bismarck. He's next to stationary. He's got the bigger guns that are really going to punish you. And just wait for the New Orleans to make a mistake and show you the side. What's also kind of crazy is we're, 7 minutes, 20 seconds in? He's already got 184,000 damage because of what he did to that enemy Montana. And you can take a ship from basically full health to no health, and it's a tier 10 battleship. Really helps with your damage stats. And there's the mistake. The New Orleans ran out of space, turned side on, and he's dead. And with cruisers, at those kind of ranges, patience is the key. I think 8-inch showed excellent patience there, waiting for the turn to start, and then fired his guns. He's up to 2 kills, 216,000 damage, just got his high caliber, and continues to just charge the Bismarck. Unlike the Tirpitz, the Bismarck doesn't have torpedoes, so there's no real payoff. What I also like is, sure, he's closing the Bismarck, but that's a side-on Qckslvrslash. Free damage, 12,000 with no citadels, another 6,000 out of the rear guns, nearly 20,000 damage with no citadels. All of that was over bends. And friendlies finish him off. So it's time to get that rudder hard over, get bow into this Bismarck, and just get in up close and personal and pump some damage in. Those torpedoes, definitely not what you want to see. Thankfully, he was already turning. Is he going to be able to dodge them? Doesn't pay maybe as much attention as he should have to the torps, and they get him. He did manage 253,000 damage there, and, well, basically took out Obsidian Oak. Friendlies will finish him off, and that's pretty much the game. Now, personally, he was going for damage. I think a little more attention paid to those torpedoes, you might have been able to dodge all but one of them, and he would have survived. But at this point, there's not much left of the enemy team, and this match has gone completely lopsided. And I think a big part of it is 8-inch pushing out hard like that, just making the decision to kind of, show some guts, make the call, and hope that your team's going to support you is what you have to do. Now, it would be immensely frustrating if he had gone and the team hadn't followed, but they really did start pushing, and it caught this group of enemy battleships and the couple cruisers that were near A off alone, no support coming from Bravo, and that's what made the difference. But let's jump to post-battle, because this game's all but over. And much like my Des Moines game yesterday, 8-inch managed to put a lot of damage out in a fairly small period of time. And that's when ships is kind of at its most fun. You can have 20-minute games where you do, 250,000 damage, and it feels really rather like mundane or dull, just because you're kind of just shooting volleys. They're small. To have those big hits like he did on the Montana, just pumping 5 citadels into a ship and deleting it, that's a blast and will always be what people are going after in this game. 379,000 credits, 6,000 experience, devastating strike, high caliber, 255,000 damage, and some kills. 5 citadels on that Montana was just great. And he was rewarded for his bravery, stupidity, like pushing out. A lot of people would be like, oh, that's stupid to go alone, but it forced the team to follow him. And because they did, I really think they just started steamrolling. And once that happens in this game, it can be hard to turn around. 2,409 base XP, top a team by a decent margin. And he only got the 2 kills, but they're kills that mattered, and he did a lot of damage to some of the ships that got finished off by friendlies. And you can see that Montana there, 89,000 of I think 96 is full health, depending on build. The New Orleans, he just waited, patience paid off, put the finishing shells in, and then a couple of the other ships, he got some big damage in. But what's interesting is 255,000 damage only came from 5 ships. A lot of times you expect it to be, by committee, like 10, 20,000 damage here and there, and you've hit almost the entirety of the enemy team. That's something 8-inch didn't do in this one. He had a set of targets in front of him, he charged them and just did the damage. And despite being a standard account, still made almost 250,000 credits, 6,000 experience, would have been almost 500,000 with premium and 9,000. So thank you very much for sending this one in. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to getting back into the Montana a bit more with the minor changes that the Americans got. Anyways, I hope everyone enjoyed this. Please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash. I'll have another one for you later.